Hello and welcome to our video. I'm Jon, aka that Team Rhysand guy,
And I'm Logan from Logan Reads.
and we're here to talk about one thing, ACOTAR.
But I'm only on book one. As many of you know, I recently finished book one in the series. But this is your spoiler warning. We will be talking about book one of ACOTAR, but nothing further. So make sure you've read book one, which, let's be honest, you have.
Well, I'll take the lead here a bit. So I reached out to Logan not too long ago about doing something together, and we've both had a lot of requests, for something like this. And once I found out that you were doing ACOTAR, I was like, we got to do something. We got to get together. We've chatted in DMs here and there, or I should say I've chatted with Melissa, your wife, but it's been like such a joy to see your videos and your reactions. The Empyrean series, Quicksilver, obviously now with ACOTAR, because I see myself and all of those feelings that I remember feeling during those same moments. But before we get into all things ACOTAR book one, I legit don't know much about you other than like how y'all met at Disney for the most part. So was Fourth Wing your first exposure to fantasy romantasy, or is that just what we kind of saw on social media? Like, talk us through kind of the start of it all for you.
So Fourth Wing was the first romantasy that I had heard of or anything. Melissa had wanted me to read it, and I didn't know much about it. She just kind of let me go, whatever. And I was like, is it kind of like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, but like with swords? And she's like, not at all. So she got me to start doing it. I loved it. I didn't know how much I was going to like it. And especially like when she started filming it and we were talking about it and everything, I got so connected to the characters, like as we progressed to it. And no spoilers for that one, but some things happened in that one that totally shocked me. I didn't realize like how high the stakes were in these books. And you get so connected to the characters. But that was my first one, was Fourth Wing. And then after that one, we went through that. And I mean, what's great is Melissa's read all the books, so she knows what I like. So she just kind of keeps handing me stuff that I would enjoy.
Yeah, good stuff. And since we're both married, I always like to ask this question, getting into this together, how has it affected your marriage and your relationship?
I feel like it's been better. I feel like for me and Melissa, just some background on us too. Melissa had a stroke a couple years ago, and then she was kind of bedbound for a while. And so she was reading these books because she was just kind of in bed. And at the time, our kids were a lot smaller, so I would be downstairs with the kids, and I'd come upstairs at the end of the night. And she's like, hey, I'm reading this. Will you read this with me? And that's kind of the reason why it took so long to get through Fourth Wing, is because usually I would be with the kids, and then when I'd come up, we could usually get through a chapter or two. And it was just a great way for us to bond, because I was, with our boys, and to be able to have that time together again and just kind of like reconnect as a couple and go to a fantasy world and enjoy these characters that were so incredibly written.
Yeah, I love that. I know, Connor has told this story, but for her, a big space for her getting back into it was having kids, particularly our second, because our second didn't sleep very well. So she just had audiobooks going all the time. And that's how she was able to like really get through a lot of these fantasy books. And for us too, like she kind of got me into and started on Throne of Glass, and she had read it and she wanted me to read it. But what she did is she had the first book just sitting like on our kitchen counter, and she just had it set there. And I got to a point where I was curious about it and picked it up and started reading it, because it was just like proximity there, and I had been seeing it for
it's an area
like 2 weeks straight. So yeah, some similarities there. But okay, I think it's been long enough. Let's talk about ACOTAR, and we're going to get right into the nitty gritty, starting with your first impressions. So did it end up being the book that you thought it was going to be?
I didn't really know what it was about. Like, it had a wolf on it, and now it makes more sense. The wolf and the arrow. Okay, I get that. But when we started out, I told Melissa, like after reading like about 3 or 4 chapters, I was just spiraling. Like her family was sending me. I was like, there's got to be somebody good in her life. Guess what? Maybe the mercenary. That was the best person in their life, I think in my mind, I was like, it's a romantasy. When does the romance start? And, still kind of, I'm waiting a little bit.
Yeah. Was there, what surprised you the most kind of getting into it?
I feel like how quickly it took off, because it was like we were with the Lane family, and I was like, okay, we got to get out of this town. This is going to take forever. And it was like, boom, when Tamlin bust in, like everything changed, and it was like we were whisked away. I thought it was going to be one of those things where, because I've read stuff like Lord of the Rings and things, it takes a while to get there. And with this one, it was like 2 chapters were there kind of thing.
Yeah, I get that too. Did you have any assumptions early on that turned out completely wrong?
I told Melissa, I said at one point, her family's going to die, right? And they never did. Now I'm kind of like, I feel like at this point, like to me, like the dad's kind of worthless in this, but they've kind of grown on me a little more, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so as Feyre gets into Prithian, something that you said in one of your videos, you said Feyre, quote, chose well, and that she hit the jackpot, meaning like her decision to go with Tamlin. And while we'll get into like a little bit more detail of this a little bit later, but how were you kind of feeling about those comments now that you've finished the book?
I feel like at the time I was like, anything's better than this. I was like, if I could just get away, I told myself, if I can get away from the family, everything can be good again. But then I didn't realize the man that we met is basically all the family members wrapped into one. It was like we found the male version of her family. I don't know. So yeah, on that one, I was wrong. I guess it can get worse. But that's the trick with these romantasy books. When you feel safe, the author's like...
And down the road, when you get into even more of the Sarah J. Maas world, I feel like the other two books or the other two series are even more so like that feeling.
Oh, wow.
And you always got to watch out for like the last 100, 200 pages of each book, because that's when it like, she just like cranks it up to 11 in like every single book. So excited to continue to see you go through the journey and everything.
Well, and I thought just this book itself was just a great standalone book, you know,
Yes.
and it's like, even how it ends, it's not like the scariest ending. I like have hope and stuff, but that's what Melissa's like. This one was kind of just like building that world, and she's like, it gets so good the further you go. So I'm really excited.
It really does open up in like a lot of different ways. Just, like the world, relationships, characters too. You start getting into like so many characters, and it's just, it's really fun. The rest of these will be mostly what I kind of pulled from the Instagram question box. So if you submitted a question, I don't know if we'll get to like every single one. I jotted some down here. I've highlighted a couple in here that I thought might be like really good. Some of them we're obviously not going to be able to talk about because some people were talking about like Throne of Glass, some characters there, and like some future books. And I'm like, you guys, like he hasn't come, he's only read book one, and this is the only one in the series. Yeah, I'm like, we can't talk about that. So not all the questions obviously we're going to get to, but some of them were pretty good. So how quickly did you solve Amarantha's riddle?
I feel like that one, the thing that gave it away is I was kind of going through it. I read it twice, and then, but when I got to where she says the word scorn, it made me think of like lover's scorn. I was probably there for like 2 or 3 minutes kind of looking at it, and I was like, I think it's that. And then I was like, am I completely off? Because then Feyre starts talking about poisons. I'm like, is it different out there in Prithian, you know?
No, she was just way off.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know if it was because just like reading pace in general, I got to that point and I was just like, I don't think she's going to figure out the riddle, so I'm not going to really try to figure it out. I'm just going to keep reading it. But what I love about you and your videos and everything specifically is just like how analytical of every little thing you are. You're just getting in the details and in the corners of everything. So
thank you so much. You know, but that's what I told Melissa. I have an unfair advantage because I'll read a chapter or two and then I'll have to go to work or I'll have to go do something else. And so I have more time to let marinate. In real life, it usually doesn't take me, 2 months to read a book, but this is kind of nice because I feel like I get to stay with the characters longer. It kind of almost like I get to stay immersed more in the world. So when I'm at work, I'll think about something and see if anything kind of clicks and makes connections kind of thing.
You definitely get to sit on it a little bit longer. So I feel like that definitely helps with predictions and theories and just being able to like connect it a lot more, just going through it a little bit like slower on that end. So what did we think of Tamlin Under the Mountain specifically?
Tamlin Under the Mountain, it was lackluster, but it was what I expected. I feel like after the whole K fiasco, I closed the door. That's when I closed it. And I was like, this man can do no right for me at this point. And then when he was, the whole thing with the Under the Mountain, I was like, he can't give us a wink. He can't give a hand signal, gesture.
Yes, that was my biggest qualm too, because it's like the comment I made on the one video, the argument could be made that like, well, he doesn't want to give anything away, I guess is a common argument. But I'm like, well, listen, he brought Feyre. They all know he has feelings for her. They all know about the relationship. A look or a wink or a smirk or a nod like isn't gonna give away anything, but he literally just can't do anything. I mean, yeah, it was a little strange.
I feel like too, the fact that we came all the way out there and we're trying to help, like just something. I've gotten used to being let down by Tamlin. This is like,
there you go.
This is his forte. This is what he's good at,
Is there anything Tamlin can do to redeem himself after book one?
I feel like the only thing, but I don't think it's true. He would have had to been under a spell.
Yeah.
There would have had to been something else, like mind control. Then I could have looked past it. But at this point, I've met Rhys. I don't need to know anything else. I'm locked in now. And I'm like, you had your chance, you blew it. And if he was under a spell, because I told Melissa, I said, this is the honeymoon period. You're married. You know, when you're first meeting the person, you're pulling out all the stops. I'm like,
Right.
you got us some crayons. That's all we could come up with. And he ignored us. He didn't talk. And so it was like, at this point, this is as good as he's going to get. And he's just been going down. And so I don't think so. He's out. I voted him off the island. I'm done.
He's out. He's off the island. Yep. Yeah. I mean, especially after that first book, you're thinking and you want there to be a change. It's like, but even toward the end there, he's not really giving us a whole lot, like after Under the Mountain. And it's really tough to be like confident that will happen, like after book one. It was kind of a loaded question, like, what can he do? Because it's, I don't know. You know, it's not leading us anywhere.
No, and he changed. He got worse. And so I think for me, that's why I was like, it's like watching his descent, you know, and it's so interesting. And I try to think like I am Feyre. When you look at like her home life, at how she was mistreated and people used her, like she's used to that type of love. That's not like not a real love. It's not like a real affection. And so she's used to that. So that's even why I told Melissa, I think with the riddle, we didn't figure out the riddle until after she got to know Rhys. And that's kind of where I was like, it almost feels like one is just it's almost like transactional. Tamlin even makes a statement that fairies always trade. Like, I do something, you do something for me. And Rhys didn't do that, which is kind of more of like somebody who loves somebody would do, you know? And so I almost wonder if that was it. She meets him and is like, because, you know, she's trying to think of love and she's thinking of poisons. Then you meet Rhys and you're like, oh, love. And I'm like, is she conflicted? Is she confused? I'm very confused. I'm like, I want her to, you know, let's give him a shot.
Yeah.
You know, what do we got to lose?
Well, and at least too, in her home, she would have at least been able to go out into the woods or hunt or do something. Yeah. It's like she's now just like cooped up in this house. She can't really leave. She just can't really do much. And it's just a big trap now. She's just stuck in there. And it's like, well, I guess we'll see if that can change after ACOTAR. So
it's and for me, I feel like we keep getting like breadcrumbs with really good characters, like the surreal. Oh, that character wasn't in there enough. I was like, I need more. Or the mercenary. Like I told Melissa, I'm like, is she gonna come back? Because then she like helped Nesta. I'm like, these are like characters I'm interested in. But it's like in this whole book, we're pretty much till the end, we're just trapped in that house, you know?
Yeah, it's rough. Okay, transitioning a little bit into, I'm just gonna call this segment Slice of Rhys. Because it's going to be basically all about him, and he's a slice on his own. So, thoughts on Rhys's actions under the mountain? This was an Instagram question. I think they were referring to some of the more questionable actions of Rhys under the mountain. She had put twisting Feyre's arm, or like dressing scandalous, drinking the wine, like those types of things. We can kind of talk about that, and then we can talk about the good stuff.
Okay. I feel like with Rhys, because the way I was looking at it is Tamlin, I really didn't see any good stuff. In Rhys, I was seeing good stuff. Not that I was overlooking, I feel like that, but I was trying to, in my mind, like, okay, let's give him a chance. Because when we meet Rhys and he's talking to Tamlin and Lucien, he's like, I have my reasons. And I'm like, but we haven't heard them yet. Now, if they're garbage reasons, and he's like, I just want to have some drinks and see some dancing, he's gonna drop a little bit, but I'm hoping there was like more to it, you know? And so now looking, because I finished the book, I'm like, was he desperate for her to make this deal for other reasons? Well, like, because again, I don't know how his powers necessarily work, but when we got in that mess and it was like she was thinking too for Tamlin and he started shocking us, we needed that shock, you know, he was saving us. But it's one of those things is I'm excited to learn more about the magic system too, about his, because it seems like everybody's a little different. Like Tamlin has different abilities than he does, so I'm kind of curious of how it works. But yeah, I feel like at this point it's going to sound terrible. I'm like, I'm putting a pin in it and I'm going to see what he has to say and see if he explains it.
Well, I know for me, I can remember obviously like when they meet at Calanmai. And there's like, you know, the famous quote, there you are, I've been looking for you, right? Yeah. Which, by the way, I have been, for months now, I've been trying to reread ACOTAR. It's been like very sporadic, but I have read into Akamath, so I have reread that part. And man, the second time that I read that, I had a very visceral reaction on the reread to that. I was just like, this is why he's my man. This is why. Yeah. But I do remember thinking his actions under the mountain. I'm like, there's like an underlying something else to this. There like has to be. Yeah. I remember thinking that very specifically because everything seemed very deliberate for a very specific purpose instead of him just kind of doing it to rile her up or whatever.
Yeah. It's one of those things too. That's what I was telling Melissa. Like with Tamlin, he's got the actual mask on and Rhys has that invisible mask. He's playing another game that we don't know. I mean, you probably know. I don't know what his full-on game is kind of thing, but there's more to it because he tells us that scene where he's like, there you are, I've been looking for you. And he tells us too, he went to that event and he said it cost him a lot, which I don't know what it cost him, but then why else was he there? And if it did cost him so much to get there, why did he waste his time helping us? And it's like, were we part of the reason? I don't know. So again, it's me wanting to believe this. I've read Fourth Wing. I'm feeling there's some similarities, and so and I don't want to just cast out Tamlin because he's blonde. It just something's off.
That's just the initial warning, the physical description. Yeah,
that's his first red flag. Yeah.
Speaking of red flags, so another question that we had, and this we might not be able to answer this one honestly, but what Rhysand red flags are actually green flags? Which when I initially was thinking about this, I was like, what red flags?
Exactly. Even with like the broken up, when he does the tattoo, I know it does more. I wonder if there was a reason he wanted her to agree to that, or she had to do it willingly. Even like the a week out of the month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is there a reason where he can like help in some way? Some of these things he did were kind of not red flaggy, but it just other stuff was going on. Even when he saved us in Calumet, he saved us and then he bolted, which is kind of a red flag. But at the same time, it was the opposite of Tamlin. Tamlin's trying to control us, and he's like, I'm going to help you, but I'm not going to control you. And it's like, you didn't necessarily get us out of there. Is that a red flag? Or are you actually a decent guy? Like, and even him opening up, I just feel like the more the book went, the more I'm like, there's more to it. Like I'm starting to see, it almost feels like the further in, it's like Tamlin and Rhys, and then you start to see them start to pull away.
Yeah, I would say like initially you see a little bit of manipulation from Rhys, but then you get some answers to some of that stuff here in the first book, especially some of the under the mountain stuff. Obviously the tattoo thing, at this point you're like, okay, if she's gonna have to go be with him for a week out of the month, that's probably gonna be a saving grace for her to be able to go somewhere else and like not have to deal with Tamlin or like be there. So I feel like maybe seeing a little bit more of that.
Well, because I feel like with Tamlin being so controlling, this gives her an outie like once a month. How book one closes out, we're like heading back to like the spring court, and it's like one of those things is when we were there the last time, we were just stuck there. And I don't know if it's going to be like that again, because I do feel like Feyre is more the type that is like wanting to be out, wanting to go to the woods. She's not built like, that's what's Melissa. I feel like Elaine is built more for wanting to just hang out and grow. That's why I was like, wow. I mean, I know Elaine couldn't have put down a wolf, but I was like, it would have been so much easier on him if that's who he would have abducted,
Yep, totally agree. Oh yeah, this question. Okay, first of all, I got some beef for the person that posed this question because how they posed it. She said, how did Logan become Team Rhysand so quickly when all the signs were him being a POS?
Ooh. You know what it is? To be honest, Melissa told me a lot of people read ACOTAR before they read Fourth Wing. And I think for me, I feel like kind of was used to that Xaden character. So that's why even with the blonde hair, it's kind of red flaggy. Even when he told us like, everything's at a trade, Tamlin wouldn't tell us all the information. So I think for me at that point, kind of how Tamlin was acting, I was already like, this guy can't be endgame. And then when this guy showed up and he was so smooth, because we're in Feyre's mind, when she describes when she's looking at Tamlin versus when she's looking at Rhys, it's very different. Like she's like how he talks, and she says it's the most beautiful man I've ever seen. And for me, it's hard to believe that like we're gonna end up with Tamlin, but that's the most beautiful man you've ever seen. Even how he talks, like his voice, his lips, the descriptions. We got a little bit on Tamlin, but I'm like, who is this guy? And he also saved us. And again, I told Melissa, I was like, I don't know what Tamlin was out there doing. Like I thought he was out there doing keg stands, but it was actually a lot worse. And while he was doing that, to me, that was my first green flag. While Tamlin was doing Tamlin business, this guy showed up because what would have happened to us if he wouldn't have shown up, kind of thing. And I think for me, that was kind of where I was able to see that first kind of green flag. I just feel like it's getting darker green. It was like a light green. I mean, there's been like little pieces of stuff that I was like, I can't remember the exact chapter, but there's a chapter where Tamlin kisses her eyes. I don't know if you remember that with the willow. So she can hear everything. And he kisses her and gives her like where she can like hear like a fairy, see and everything. And then all of a sudden she can hear the willow and she gets sleepy. And Tamlin curses. And I was like, oh, that's really weird. Then she's basically asleep. And then you hear, and you're everything I dreamed you would be too. And Tamlin hasn't made any of those comments to her before. But I told Melissa, it seems that phrase doesn't sound like a Tamlin phrase. The other guy who was like very like, I almost feel like that was almost like something that like went together. And because she was in a dream state, but she had been kissed, I was like, could she hear that? I don't know. And because again, in her dream, we're seeing the shadowy figure. And I always thought, what's in that? I'm like, I think that's him. You know, because we're with Tamlin and I'm struggling. It's like a flare gun. I'm looking for, get me out of here. Who? Where? And then when I heard that line, I was like, oh, that's way too smooth to be
Wait a
Tamlin.
minute,
He's
yeah.
super lame.
Was there a hard switch kind of from Tamlin to Rhysand? You touched on it a little bit, but was there a specific moment?
I think it was, yeah, it was probably the cave. I think when like found out he was doing it for crops and I was like, okay, like, you know, I get it. But at the same time, I was like, I just feel like this is romantasy. So I feel like who I'm ending up with, they're a 10 in all areas. I can't have my guy, you know, once a year. Yeah, our produce is good, but at what cost? You know, so I think when that happened, I was like, okay, he's not it. He's not in game. I kind of, for a while, to be honest, before Rhys showed up, I thought it was a Lucian. And I thought that was going to end up being like a thing. But then when he stepped in, and I was kind of like, oh, and he's smooth. And I'm like, this is, I could see a certain very, so I think that scene. And then when he showed up with Lucian and Tamlin had him like kissing his feet, I was like, this guy's awesome. And it's probably toxic. I told, and Melissa's like, each encounter, these aren't great encounters. Like the people who have been taking care of, are like, he's like, kiss my feet. And I was like, I love it. And I feel like each time I saw him, I was like, it's like that he like bet on her. Like it just keeps reaffirming it. Like I'm waiting for something to kind of reel me back. But Jon, I think I'm too far gone. I think I've already dove. I think I'm in.
Yes. Head first, right down into the deep end. I mean, come on. And I feel like that's how it was for me too. And Under the Mountain, especially at the end of book 1 and getting into it, I feel like solidifies that so much more because you're getting so much more of Rhys there at the end. And like I said before, you're starting to get glimpses of not an ulterior motive, but for maybe some more noble purposes, like in Rhys, throughout that whole like story at the end.
Is that how you felt too? Like, was the cave kind of your trigger?
I don't remember at what point exactly. It's been so long now. It's been a couple years, like since I've initially read it. Initially, you know, I don't remember when that was. I do remember feeling very strongly at the "There you are, I've been looking for you," even the first time read. That was a very strong, like, this is going to be somebody. You don't just come in with that line and it's a secondary character. You know?
That's true. That's not a character that's just going to be like, well, we'll never see them again. Like, that's the one I feel like, it's like, do you put that line in the book and then just build the book around it? Because that's a solid line. And even he's gotten some good lines. I mean, again, Tamlin doesn't really have any good lines. And he talks about her mortal heart and everything, and be like, I can't remember the exact line, but like, to be lucky that you have it. How he talks and everything is, he just has these like epic lines, and I'm like, usually these lines match up with kind of that character style too. I think even when he showed up, I pictured it as like, I love Pirates of the Caribbean. I kind of almost pictured it from that scene when Jack Sparrow shows up and like he comes back to fight the Kraken and she's like at his feet and he takes on the Kraken at the end. It was just one of those like epic, I was like, how are we going to get out? Tamlin needs to show up and help us. And then this other guy did this like hero kind of thing. He was beautiful and everybody's afraid of him. And at least from the other books that I've read so far, that's a good sign. We like that. We like scary, beautiful people. Maybe not in real life, but in this, I'm here for it. Yeah.
Yep. It's top tier. Did you guys happen to watch or have you seen any of the Call Her Daddy interview with Sarah J. Maas?
I haven't. I think Melissa watched it though, because she said it was like when she started talking about books 6 and 7. Was it hearing that?
Well, what I'm thinking of is when she referenced Rhys's character and like introducing him, and it sounded like it was almost a surprise to Sarah herself. She's like, who is this guy that just like popped into my imagination and on the page here? So I feel like her having that line for him in that moment makes it even better, knowing that little like tidbit that it was almost a surprise to her. Like, where did this guy come from? I think is what she said.
That's what I love is like, I don't know where she was going to go, like with the storyline. The fact that like, that's really cool. I didn't know the fact she wrote it and she's like, what have I done? What have I created? Like, that's good writing.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
I have a question for you. So since you've reread it, when you go back, because like, I'm just reading it like the one way through, and I told Melissa, I said, when I finish these, I want to reread it. Are you catching more stuff than like you did before kind of thing? Because I feel like the writing for this, it can be, what I love is you can like really like look into it, or you can just read it for fun. Or there's like little hidden Easter eggs. I feel like Sarah was like a Swiftie or something. She's got like little treats for everybody.
It's like, she's definitely on that level, I feel like. Definitely picking up little details like here and there. amidst all of it. I also think it's so interesting, and this is for every book to reread, and I think this is what makes it super fun to reread books after a little while, is it also kind of depends on where you are in your life, like season of life thing. You could take something completely different out of a book 2 years from now, depending on
Yeah.
where you are in your life. You're a little bit older. You could take something totally different from when you read it the first time, like a couple years ago. And I think that's really cool about rereads, is because you can read the same story, you know what happens, but you're taking like a completely different perspective or like emotion or feeling out of it, even though it's the same words that you're reading.
That's so cool. It is. It's like basically like you revisit it and it's a brand new book. I know, like
Yeah.
after Melissa read these before she had her stroke, and she said too, like even at the end of the book, like you see like how Feyre is like kind of starting to struggle, and she's like kind of that hits harder. She said than like previous, and she's like it's just after different life events, it really changes your outlook. You know.
Yeah, it's crazy, but that's what makes reading so cool, honestly. Kind of our last touch of Rhys here. Anything
Rhys.
he could have done that would have turned you off of him? Let's go to the ultimate. If there was like, let me phrase it this way: what would he have had to do for you to be like, oh, that's all right? Now I'm changed. I'm like maybe need to hold up on my adoration.
Okay. So I think the further the book gets, the harder it would be for him to lose me. Like I do feel like Claire better. You know.
Okay.
Oh, she seemed like a nice girl. I don't know. I mean, who knows that story, right? But I
Yeah.
do feel like if he would have done that in the cave scene, I'd be like, okay, he's beautiful, but like, I don't know. And then I had a couple of encounters. So kind of that's what it's a trust system I'm on in my mind.
Yeah, all right.
So the more I'm meeting him, the more I trust. So yeah, Claire took me down, but not out. You know, if that would have happened back here, maybe. And now we're climbing again. You know, he saved us. There's like that scene where the worm's coming and something pulls her back. I was like, I think that's him. We're starting to climb again. Claire, that's what I told Melissa. I said, Claire better. And Melissa was like, you sound crazy. I was like, it was a speed bump for me. But, you know, maybe earlier it would have been too much.
Let's get into a group of questions. There are kind of like some predictions, theories, just some like other questions that we kind of got in our question box. Do you have any predictions for the second book?
I'm hoping we come to our senses with Rhys. That's a big one. I am really curious. I told Melissa ever since I saw this, I've been like trying to like watch and look and see if I can see it anywhere else. Is the mating bonds? The mating bonds to me are really cool because Lucian, that's even he said he thought his was about to snap into place, but it technically never did. Like, is there another mate
Right.
for him? Again, it's like Lucian says that mates are equals, and like Tamlin and Feyre never really gave me the equal vibe. But again, like what Tamlin's looking for and like what Elaine offers, I was like, I don't know if that would be too weird because now it's like the sister. But, or I even I said, you know, like somebody else who would want to be taken care of would be like her papa. Who knows? Maybe Papa and Tamlin.
Yeah,
There's
there
4
you
more
go.
books. You know, I feel like the mating bonds I'm interested in, the magic system. I want to go to, I'm hoping we get to visit all the places. I'm hoping to find out more. I'm trying to think for Endgame. I mean, now that we're a fairy, I want to know what her abilities are. I feel like there's a lot. I'm hoping maybe by book 2, maybe I can start to like try to piece a little more together and everything.
Yeah, I think you'll be able to.
Okay,
I
I
think
hope
you're.
so.
I think in book 2 you probably have like the most predictions in book 2.
Okay.
That would be my guess. And if book 1 told us anything, well, you'll have a lot of thinking to do and a lot of processing to do in book 2. I think.
Yeah, that's Melissa
yeah.
kind of told me. She said this was more like setup, which it felt like it was a lot of information. But she said, I do know Melissa's favorite book out of these is book 2. So I'm really stoked to read that. But I work with a lot of girls at work or in like book clubs and stuff too. And a couple of them have said like book 3, or I've heard like book 5. What do you have a favorite one?
Like ACOMAF is up there, so book 2 is up there. That's probably my favorite.
Okay.
But I will say the little novella that's in between. Is that book 4? I think that's book 4. So Frost and Starlight.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you, and I think I say this like every time I get to talk about it. I hadn't heard anybody talking about it. Like everybody was talking about, obviously book 1, and then everybody loved ACOMAF, and then ACOTAR is just crazy, and obviously Silver Flames is crazy. I would say majority of people, Silver Flames is probably their favorite. But then I'm like, nobody's talking about Frost and Starlight. So I don't know if it was the underratedness of it, but man, really good little novella in between.
I'm stoked for that one because
Yeah.
you're right. The girls at work, I've heard like book 2, 3, 5. I don't know if nobody has said the first one, and I'm like, I love the first one. So maybe it'll be like kind of a sleeper like that. Like number 4
Yeah.
will end up being because nobody talk. I don't even know what that one is gonna like have to do. I just know it's a smaller book. I'm like, oh, that'll be a quicker read kind of thing.
When there was a question if we had any theories, or if you had any theories on like the Starlight pool.
I did tell Melissa, I said, it is kind of weird. I told Melissa, I feel like with Tamlin and Rhys, there's a history there. I really want to know that
Yeah.
history because the encounters that they've had, and it seems like if he is from the Night Court, that felt more like Night Court. And I told Melissa, I said, it's weird because I said, it feels like, is Tamlin collecting things from other courts? Like Lucian, he's from the Autumn Court. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing. Is that something, did he take a piece of it? Or was there at some point someone that lived on those grounds that was from the Night Court? I don't know. I that is a huge mystery to me, and I'm hoping maybe to find out more information on that one.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Any predictions for Feyre's family?
I mean, a war is coming. I can't imagine everybody making it.
Right.
The hard part is I'm kind of judging them based off of my first encounter. Maybe there'll be some redemption. Maybe there'll be some growth. And that's why I was like, are they going to stay with us? I mean, at this point, we're high fae, right? We've moved on,
Right.
and it threw me off that we actually went home. I was like, maybe this is how it starts. Like maybe we don't have any more interactions. Like her home life is terrible. That wolf dog Tamlin took us. We're in Springcourt. We'll never see it. Then we actually went back, and then I'm like, oh no, are they like a like a bad cold or something? I feel like, are we going to just keep running into them? But I don't know. Maybe there'll be some growth. I'm really impressed with Nesta that she went looking for us. I don't know what that was about. And she got the mercenary. So I'm like, the mercenary is a character I like. So I'm like, maybe there's more to it.
I thought this was a really great question that I thought we could kind of talk about a little bit. But somebody asked, do you both find parallels to the Rhys and Feyre romance in your own love story / marriages?
Let's see. I'll let you go first. I'll think on it.
So yeah, I was thinking about this when I was kind of typing these out. I hadn't really connected this, obviously, like at first when I first started reading it, but I would say yes, especially with kind of like their meet cute with the famous line, "There you are, I've been looking for you." Most of you who will watch and listen to this probably don't know me and our story, but we met in college in an a cappella group, and what kind of kicked things off was that we were rehearsing for our first like performance, and with a cappella there's a little bit of like choreography and movement and stuff, and we were rehearsing on stage, and we happened to pass by each other, and I winked at her, and that just kind of basically just set everything in motion. And I feel like there's some similarities there with like Rhys's first line. There's just like a kind of initial moment of like, oh, okay.
And props to you. Like it's like an epic entrance. Like, oh, like you just showed up, give her a wink, and walked off. It kind of, that's basically what he did. Like he did his thing, and then I don't know. I feel like because Melissa and I, we met at Disney World, and she used to be, spoiler alert, used to be like one of the princesses. But I worked in HR, and I worked in the area where like they would come to get paychecks. So we just kind of kept having like encounters. Actually, oddly enough, maybe it's not Rhys that it's more alike, but I actually met Melissa on her birthday, and she used to be Princess Aurora, and Aurora actually meets Prince Philip on her birthday. So maybe more Philip and Aurora, I guess.
All right. So you're more the Prince Charming, not so much the Shadow Daddy.
That's probably what it is. I look more up to the Shadow Dad because they're just too cool. Like I couldn't pull off lines like that.
Yeah. Oh man, that's good stuff. We'll finish out with these last few fun ones. If you could shapeshift into another creature, what would it be?
That's a really good question. I feel like anything that flies. I don't think I'd be like as cool as
That's good.
like Rhys with like talons. Like super. I'd probably be more like not a pigeon. I don't know. They get a lot of free food. Seagull maybe by the beach. Probably a seagull. Actually, that would probably be
Seagull?
it. Yeah.
All right.
What would yours be?
A creature, huh? For some reason, I was initially thinking like werewolf or vampire for some reason.
Well, that's better.
I don't know why
That's
I
better.
went to that.
That's a question like trying to figure out your animal character instantly. Is it like
Yeah.
almost like animal style. I just feel like anything that flies, I would be down for that. Like
I do like that. I feel like for me, it would have to be something that is consistently fed and like well fed.
maybe like a panda. They eat all day. They're living the life.
Bro, that's it,
I
panda.
can't imagine, honestly, that being super helpful in ACOTAR. Like, if Feyre needs help, and you're like, let me turn into this panda. Like,
And roll
and I'm
around.
a seagull. That's why we wouldn't have ended it. Yeah, our characters would have been written out.
Somebody draw that for us. Somebody out there, draw me as a panda and draw Logan as a seagull. Oh my gosh.
That would
All
be
right.
wild.
That
Some
would be
fan
crazy.
fiction.
Would you rather live in Prithian or Basgiath? Obviously, it's a little bit loaded, this question, because you've only spent one book in Prithian. You've gone through all of Basgiath, so.
I feel like I would probably say Prithian because you've got more hope. Mags guy, things are
I don't
looking
know,
pretty
man.
grim out there.
They are not looking. They're not looking great.
I told Melissa in all the books so far where Deverelli was the spot. When we got there, I was like, let's set up shop. This is our new home.
I always thought that they would make chocolate there. I don't know why. It just sounds like, you know what I mean?
Deverelli chocolate. That fits.
Yeah, it's got a good ring to it. How awesome are your wives?
Oh, 10 out of 10.
Incredible. 10 out of 10. No notes.
And the thing is, they know us so well too. Your wife got you into reading this too. This isn't something I would normally pick up, but Melissa was like, oh, 100%. Like, read Fourth Wing. She was like giving me books that I like. And that's what's great. Yeah. I don't really have a bad read because she knows what I like. So she like kind of vets everything for me. So, yeah.
Yep. Well, Con kind of prompted me to get into Kindred's Curse Saga, and she's also given me a couple other like recommendations. I'll honestly probably start Road of Bones. One of her friends got her into that, and she said that's amazing. So that's probably going to be one that I read like in August.
Cool.
So, oh yeah, they know us. They know us well. All right, the Arsheron sisters. This was a little kinder than the typical choice that you get, but it's Kiss, Marry, Avoid.
I'm going to say Feyre for Mary because she's the only one I can tolerate. She seems like, I mean, she did say the two for Tamlin thing, but I can look past that. I think that's who I'd marry. Kiss, I think I'd be too afraid to kiss Nesta. So probably Elaine, maybe. And then Avoid at all costs, probably Nesta. I don't know. What about you? Is it in the same wheelhouse?
So I feel like Feyre might be like, that's kind of like your safe choice for Mary, right? I feel like that's a common kind of your go-to. I would swap the other two though. I feel like do the kiss for Nesta because she's a little fiery and I feel like that would be really passionate, you know what I mean? And then I don't know, I've never felt like super strongly about Elaine's character, so I'm just gonna throw her in the avoid category.
I and that's why I'm like with her, you really can't connect with it. That's what I told Melissa. I said she's like the girl from Mean Girls, where you're like, it's like there's no connection, not in a mean way, but it's like I was waiting for there to be some writing to where she was like, it was all a ploy. I was playing dumb. The flowers that I'm making actually have healing properties, and we're gonna use it.
Yeah,
but it never happened.
Nothing. Yeah. All right. That's kind of all I had and all the Instagram questions that we got. Would there be anything that you wanted to add before we kind of send it off?
You're already like steps ahead of me on reading. Out of all of the series that you've read, would you say is this top 1, 2, or 3? Like where would that land for you?
For just general series, or are we talking in the Massverse?
General series.
Oh boy. What do they call it? Maybe it might be recency bias because I just finished Kindred's Curse Saga, but Kindred's Curse is going to be up there for me. Okay. That is a very good series. So I'm excited to read Burn in like 2 weeks. That's going to be really good. Yeah, man, where does ACOTAR rank in it? Because Crescent City is actually my favorite series in the Massverse.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
That could possibly change because obviously both ACOTAR and Crescent City aren't finished yet. So, you know, I would say ACOTAR definitely still has room to win out. When it comes to series, I feel like other than the Massverse, I really haven't read too many series. I'm trying to think of other than like Kindred's Curse. Well, I guess, oh man. So like When the Moon Hatched and Ballad, I totally forgot about them. Oh my gosh. It's so stressful.
Well, you got such a large catalog because you've read all these. I'm like a child. I'm like, I've read Fourth Wing and Quicksilver and one book from ACOTAR. So for me, it's like I only have a few to pull from. So you're like sifting through everything.
You read Brimstone too?
I haven't read that one yet. Melissa, we ended up switching and doing ACOTAR, and she was going to do this first one, and then she said she was going to do Brimstone because she kind of tells me like the order, or she like posted something for like a vote, I guess. And she said people wanted me to go to the second ACOTAR, which I'm stoked because I feel like the second one, like especially kind of like leaving off on that too. I'm like, it's hard because now I've got like 2 unfinished series kind of thing.
Yeah, gosh, that's really difficult because the Moonfall series is also really good. I would say it's probably in the top 3. ACOTAR is probably in the top 3 of all the series I've read so far.
Is there, this is vague, so it won't give me any clues, but I'm really curious. So you've read all 5 ACOTARs. Is there a potential that book 6 and 7 could be so good that it would take the top spot?
For like the series?
Yeah. Is there something that you're looking for that if it happened, you'd be like, boom, your kind of thing?
I mean, I would say definite yes.
Oh, okay, okay.
Not even because of what could happen. I feel like, man, if her writing of all three of those series were like that good at that point, and all of those, what was it, like the year that she put out like all of those books like in a record time, I feel like what she's about to release is going to be absolutely bonkers. I mean, regardless of the plot and everything, I mean, she's just had time to make this really incredible, and that's what I'm expecting.
I didn't even think about that because she put them out back to back and she's had some time. And so
Yeah.
now she has like exactly what she wants. Because I can't imagine being an author like how they have to, even like Rebecca Yarros or Kelly Hart, they're having to like, try to crank these out so quick and you want these characters perfect. I'm like, I told Melissa, I said, trying to write a book, I said, for me to write one book, I feel like I'd be 80 years old. I'm like, here it is. Like,
I know,
'cause
right?
they're just having to move at such a wild pace. So that's pretty awesome that Sarah was able to take that break and she's like, this is exactly what I want.
I feel like you feel that in the Moonfall series. So like When the Moon Hatched and Ballad. And she's even talked about that before, how the publisher that she has, Sarah A. Parker, they gave her some extra time to like really make it how she wanted it to be, instead of just like, trying to get it to them on like a deadline and be like, well, this is it. This is what I have to give you. Like they gave her some extra time to be like, we want it to be as good as you want it to be out in the world. And I think that says a lot about a publisher when you have somebody like that as an author.
Yeah, no, I'm like, that's a great publisher because I think it's one of those like, you don't get any do-overs, like if you have to push something out too fast, you've made these characters and they're these like iconic characters. And because you had to push them out, everyone's attached to like these characters. Like because I've caught up with Fourth Wing, it's one of those things where like, I feel like that's why like Rebecca and them are like taking their time because everybody has their own version of like how like Zayden's morally gray or what this character do and that, and it's like they're real people, so you're having to make decisions based off that. And I'm like, it's got to be such a hard thing, but if you have a good publisher that gives you the time and like take a little more time, so this is perfect, so you have no regrets because you can't pull it back in after you've put it out there.
Well, any more thoughts, questions, comments?
I don't think I had fun. That was it. Thank
Yeah,
you
this
for hanging out. This is
my-
awesome.
Yeah. My last question was just what's next for Logan Reads?
Honestly, Melissa knows more than me. I know we're getting ready. I think next week we're going to start reading the second ACOTAR book. And
Right.
then I'm not really for sure what all she has planned. It's nice that she kind of takes the reins on everything where I just get to show up and read and be immersed in the world and have fun. And she's like,
Yeah.
okay, we'll do this book and this one. So I just kind of get to enjoy the journey of the characters kind of thing.
Has doing all this and like doing all the recordings and reactions, has it changed like how you read or any kind of like enjoyment, like having the whole social media side?
It's funny because it's like a catch-22 because I can't look at like comments or anything because they're like full of spoilers. I usually just tell Melissa, I'm like, hey, if it's a funny comment, tell me, like, because like
Yeah.
I want to know. I like the funny comments and stuff. But it's one of those things where like usually when me and Melissa would be in bed at night, like we're like talking and kind of debriefing about the day and like what's going on. And this is just kind of a fun experience because these books had such a big impact on Melissa. And I remember she got to read ACOTAR at a normal pace, where I'm guessing a normal pace is like a book every day. Because I went in and she'd like she had the pink book, and then the next day there was a green. I'm like, man, she's burning through these. And then when she wanted me to start reading these, it's nice because she rereads next to me, so we like get to talk about it, and she'll just talk about it up to the part that I have. So it's fun because it's like me and her just in like a book club where we get to really have fun.
Yeah.
It's a no pressure thing. Like I feel like with some book clubs, like you have to read, a book really quick. This is like we're going at our own pace and just kind of having fun. And that's what Melissa said. She says, cool, because she'll upload it, and it's people who also really enjoy these books too, and their thoughts on the books and their experiences, because everybody has an emotional tie to each of these characters or what they feel, or, like how I'm not a huge Tamlin fan. She said there's people that are, and so it's just really neat. I feel like the whole like book community, it's really cool that there's so many people that can get online and get to share characters and thoughts and how these books have affected them.
All right, Logan, well, this is amazing. I'm glad we finally got to do this. Hopefully we do it again, possibly. Maybe after you finish Akamath, we can keep
Okay, that would
keep
be
the
cool.
lines open and all that.